Hello and welcome back to Unraveling Crypto. Today's episode is with a very special friend, Melanie Mason. Melanie was one of the few people that I first told and shared my vision for Unraveling Crypto, and she really has helped shape it and morphed it into what it is. So I'm really excited to have her on. We talk about her journey into Web3 and crypto, working with Gemini, and she gives incredible insights and tips on how you, if you're curious and want to join, how you can get started. We also talk about the roles that women play and how you can still be your feminine self in a very male-dominated space. So let's dive right on in. Hi, Mel. Welcome to Unraveling Crypto. I know you and I have tried this before, and we've had a few technological glitches, but we're back, and I'm excited to welcome you here.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. This is literally my favorite podcast in Web3, so it's an honor to be here chatting with you. I'm excited.
Same. So, like always, with other podcasts, let's start with what are you most grateful for right now?
Oh, that's a good one. Right now, I'm feeling really grateful for community. I don't know. I don't want this to sound cheesy, but just like the friends that I've made through crypto have just been extra supportive lately, and I've been feeling just like really thankful to be surrounded by people. I feel like we're always just helping each other and talking. So I've been feeling like the community, and I've been really grateful for that.
Yes, love that. Well, we can dive right on in. But the first question I want to ask you is, what's your superpower? So that thing that comes to you most effortless. The thing that you do naturally, you've probably done it since you were a child.
Great question. I once got asked that in an interview, actually. Um, I would say I'm between two, but they're really kind of the same thing. I would either say empathy or good listening, which I think really just goes hand in hand. I mean, you know me well. We've gotten to know each other so well over the last year, so I think you know this about me. But actually, my whole life, I've always been that friend that people feel that they can talk to, and I think it's because I just simply listen. And I have a high emotional intelligence, which helps with the empathy. So I would say that is my superpower.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with this. You are such an incredible listener and you tune in really well with what's going on. And I think you have this special quality because you listen truly. I think many of us actually don't listen. We just are hearing and are thinking how we can respond or reply or say something back. But because of that quality that you have, you can say things that create a lot of perspective shifts and changes. And I think that's just really one of the incredible things about you. And I'm really excited for you to be on here because many don't know, but Melanie has been behind the scenes and kind of since the inception of Unraveling Crypto before we had no name and just the idea of it. So having you come on board and just seeing where we go from there. And one of the goals is to kind of have you come on and just chat about different things, about what's going on in the space too. That was always my vision in some way, shape, or form. So I'm really excited to introduce you to everyone. Okay, so tell me a little bit about you and just your background in general when it comes to like what led you a little bit to get into crypto.
Sure. So it really happened a couple years ago during the pandemic. I got laid off in April 2020. So all of a sudden I had all of this time on my hands, and my now fiance was already in the space. And he had all of these books in our apartment on crypto. And so finally, I started picking up these books. The first one I read was Bitcoin Billionaires. The second one I read was The Bitcoin Standard. And it was after reading both of those books that everything kind of clicked for me. And I started to become really passionate about the space. And I saw it as so much more than just a place, as an investment, as a place to put money. I started to see how it could change society and lift up communities. And I got really excited about it. So then through Gemini, purchased my first crypto for myself, which was a big deal because I I didn't have like the best relationship with money. I didn't really know anything about investing. And so I think not only did it get me into the crypto space, I started to think about my own relationship with money. So those things were kind of happening at the same time, which was really cool. And then it kind of unraveled from there. Haha, unraveling crypto. And I got to the point where, after going to a couple crypto events, I decided I love this space. I love the people in this space. Everyone was so nice and kind and just like optimistic about the future. And so I decided that I wanted to get a job in the space. And I had, Gemini had a special place in my heart from reading Bitcoin Billionaires, and then to actually purchasing my own crypto on there. So I kind of stalked them. I applied to a job a couple times, ended up going to a networking event with them, and finally landed a job there, which was my first time like working in the space. And that was about a year ago. And it's just been, yeah, it's just been a journey from there. This, but I'm no longer at Gemini. I'm now at a DeFi startup called Skolem, which has been really exciting, and working in recruiting both now and previously at Gemini.
Yeah. Okay. There's so many like places that I want to go with this because and I think we'll get to it, especially when it comes to getting your perspective on how to get a job in crypto and Web3, even if you totally don't have a lot of experience or if you do. Personally, you've been helping me navigate that and you've been so pivotal on just how to prepare, on what to look for. And I know that's going to be very valuable, but I want to pick your brain a little bit on that journey of like what was that factor that really wanted that you decided I want to get into crypto, or like what was that shift?
Um, I feel like it would be really hard to pinpoint one thing, but to be, I guess, really broad is that a couple things. I had been sort of searching for work that would feel meaningful. I wanted something that would feel like more than a job. And I was kind of looking for it. I feel like for the past few years since I graduated college, and I didn't know what it would be. And I was trying to explore different avenues. And on top of that, I had always felt like I wanted to do something good. I wanted to feel like what I was doing was helping society, was lifting people up, and ultimately was something that felt good to me. And I'd been kind of searching for that. And I've been, I care deeply about the environment and sustainability. And for a while thought that was my path. And maybe in some ways I'll go back to that path in the future. But I couldn't find the thing that was really fulfilling me. And there was something about crypto that really spoke to me. And I think, again, this is so broad, but I think the thing that really got me was that I felt like it was good for society and it was good for people. And I think what I mean by that is that it's inclusive of all people. So unlike our current systems that exclude certain groups of people and really only lift up and benefit a few people, crypto offers solutions and systems that can lift up everybody. And to me, that just felt like something so good.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's so, it's interesting because when somebody asks you like what is it about crypto or how, like there's so many different avenues and different ways for you to connect to why it's meaningful for you, whether it's through money or actually through creating different use cases for you to like get on it, or there's just so many, and I think it hits different points of like school of thoughts, like whether it's economics or like looking at game theory, etc., like even the environment, like the how consumption of energy is also used, which I haven't explored that entirely. But before I go on a tangent, I would love to get your thoughts on what was the mindset shift with money. So prior to you getting into crypto or learning, what were your beliefs and thoughts, and then where are they now?
That's a great question. Because I think so many things. I've had a lot of mindset shifts around money, and you and I have talked about this a lot. But I think, you know, I never associated money with women. I grew up in a family where it was the men in my life who had money, who talked about it, and who, invested everything. But I didn't have any women in my life who were talking about it or teaching me about it or anything like that. So it was just kind of like over there with the guys. And I felt like separated from it. And I think on top of that, I I think I had some ideas around like money being bad. And by that I mean, I was driven to do something that felt good for the world. And in my experience, I didn't know of something that was good that would also yield a lot of money. I didn't know any stories or narratives where those things were together. They were often separated. I feel like it was either you can be over here and you can make a lot of money, or you can be here, helping people, but those things aren't connected. And I've now learned that that's totally false. They are 1000% connected, and they should be, because money lifts people up, gives us freedom and power and a voice and all those good things. So there was kind of that mindset shift. And then personally, just a shift in myself to want to learn about investing, to want to learn how to properly manage my own money and to feel really free and secure in that. And to not just kind of leave it to the guys. I'm sort of, shifting my mind to realize that money is very important for women and for me. And, I think it's going to be a lifelong journey. Like there are still so many things that I think I need to work on to kind of envision for myself. But, yes, it's been good. And crypto has helped so much with the mindset shifts.
And what are like practical things that you do now around money or managing it, or maybe just one or two things that have been beneficial for you?
Sure. Let's see. So dollar cost averaging my crypto investments has been the best thing ever. I love this. I learned this a couple years, like when I started to get into crypto, I also started to read a little bit about money. There's a book called The Psychology of Money that I love. And I remember reading, I forget where, but I read that women are actually better investors because we put our money in and we just leave it. We don't touch it. We don't think about it. Probably because we are way too busy to be worrying about it or thinking about it. And money grows over time. So that's really the best thing to do is just put it in and leave it. So I have a couple like reoccurring crypto buys set up every month. Nothing crazy, but it just makes it so that I know that I have skin in the game, buying crypto. Hopefully it will, set my future self up for success and potentially financial freedom in the future. And then I think on top of that, like, simple things like just having like a monthly budget. I think the biggest thing, yep, just having a monthly budget. And, you can find resources online around like how much to save or how much to, spend today or invest, things like that. And I'm definitely like still learning. I feel like I have so much to learn, but those are just some like tactical things that I'm personally doing.
Yeah, I think like the basics, anything in life is universal. Like going back to the foundations or like the basics of things will just prepare you and set you up for like success ultimately. Okay, so can you share with us for those that may not know what dollar cost average is? Like what is that really?
Yes, I'll do my best. So, I mean, my understanding is that it's really tough to time the market. So instead of trying to decide when is the best time to buy or sell, the best thing to do is to just put money into the market over time. Um, so it's basically like instead of saying, oh, like now is a great time to buy Bitcoin because it's down, I'm just kind of like, anytime is a good time to buy it. I'm just going to buy a little bit every month. And, you know, I don't know. Is there anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I think you said it pretty like spot on, and it was great.
Okay.
The only thing I would add on is just with what you said, your budget. Like, what is your monthly budget, or maybe you have $500 of savings of extra entertainment money, because this is kind of where a lot of us say, even though we may not do it, but it's like $500 that you have of entertainment money for 3 months, and then you dollar cost average it for every week how much you would have to put $500 in every week. So it's just money that you know that you won't really need, and then you can put it in. And I think that's like working backwards. You have this much money and this amount of time that you want to put it in, and that's what you do. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love that so much. And I remember like, I think something that really helped me is just learning that even putting in $5
Yeah.
is something.
Yeah.
Like there is no need to feel like you need to be putting in $1,000 plus per month. If $5 is all you feel comfortable with, start there. And that's like really what helped me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. I think it's like we underestimate how much that actually does. Like, let's say $10 a week, like over time, instead of just maybe not putting
Totally.
anything at all and just, yeah.
And you know what? You know what else it does is it helps you form the habit of investing.
Yeah.
And so then you're used to it. And then, you know, in the future you may feel comfortable with more than $5, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is. But at least you've like started to build a habit as this is something I think about, this is something that I do.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so back to Web3 and crypto. Where like there's so many places to start, and sometimes it can be really overwhelming for the crypto curious people, which is kind of where this podcast who like the audience is. Like what's your recommendation? Where can they kind of start or lean into to learn more?
Great question. I always say like pick the resources that you like to read or listen to. So for me, I'm a big reader. I love books. So finding books on crypto and Web3 were the biggest thing for me. If you're not a big reader and you prefer a podcast, check out some podcasts. If you're someone who likes to meet people and socialize, look up a crypto event in your city and go there and just meet people and talk. Everyone is so nice and always open to sharing. So I think like identifying which will be most interesting, which avenue will be most interesting to you, and then looking for resources there.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I also think that another way to look at it is like, what are you passionate about? Right now in crypto, there's so many things. So, like, if you love music, there's going to be something related to music with crypto. And then you kind of explore that. Now, even Starbucks, like, if you love coffee, you can kind of get into it. So, it's like there's different ways now that make it a lot easier and accessible.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like if you're not interested in the investing piece, that's totally fine. Check out another side of it, the art, music, like you said. I love that so much.
Yeah. Okay. So, two questions, but the first one is, what do you love most about Web3 crypto? I mean, I think those terms are jargony, but about the space.
Um, a couple things. Do I have to pick one?
No, you can say a few things.
Okay. The first one is definitely the people. I have made so many good friends in the space, you included. And that's honestly just been the best part. I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but the people in the crypto space are just so thoughtful and kind and caring. And these are the types of people that I want to spend my days with, that I want to talk to and hang out with on the weekends. So the people is definitely the best part. I would say second best would be the fact that you can make money and do something good for people and society. I think that that's like making that connection is the best.
Yeah. Okay. So now, what are the areas of growth that the areas that are still sticky within the space?
Good question. Something that comes to mind, I think, is diversity. I think it's definitely getting better. I've heard and seen so many people saying that when they go to crypto events, they're seeing more and more women there, and that's really exciting. But I think the truth is we have a long ways to go. And so something that I think about is how can we attract people from all backgrounds to this space? Because it would be a mistake to build new things and not include everyone's perspective. And then without meaning to, the systems won't work for everyone. So I think it's really important that we keep diversity in mind. Um, as someone who works in recruiting, this is something that we talk about at work. So there's definitely that. I mean, there's more too. Like I think user experience is something. Like sometimes you go to an app or a website and it doesn't work exactly, or it takes a while to load. There's I think some things there that could be barriers, and I want to make sure that I know we're working on it and it will get better. But imagine when the user experience is easy and seamless and
Yeah.
pretty, everyone will be drawn to it because it won't be frustrating to, get in and buy something, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think that really comes up too. It's just like it's there's so many different steps, a lot of friction between you being able to get even buy anything of like a coin or an NFT. You have to set up a wallet, then you have to go to Coinbase, and then you have to protect your money into a wallet. So there's like a lot of points that it's about decentralization. So we're still learning, but I think that the takeaway is that I always tell people is like, if you're curious and you want to learn, just take it as like, this is the infancy stages of this type of technology. And how cool is it that you can share this story with your kids or in a lecture 20, 30 years down the road and say like, this is what it was. It's kind of like, how we went from like beepers to like then a phone and texting and all these type of things. So having a little bit of patience with that, but I do agree that we need to a lot of the user experience and becoming less touch points before you can actually do something within the space.
Yeah, exactly. But I love what you said. It's super early, and I think that can be a draw for people because if you get in early, you can have a voice and you can be part of something, and hopefully we'll look back 20 years from now and be amazed at how far we've come.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd love to talk about getting a job in crypto. And since you work in recruiting, what's your advice for those that are curious about it or are like the type of people that, hey, I learned by just jumping in and getting the experience? And yeah, share with me your thoughts.
Totally. I feel like I can speak to this because I myself just about a year ago made this leap. And I didn't have tech experience or anything like that. I think I would say that passion and interest in the space goes a really long way. So showing that you're excited about the space will be really meaningful. And I think that can be portrayed just in a conversation and an interview. Or, you might want to take the time to write a blog post around your thoughts on the space and use that to show, hey, you're interested, you're putting in the work, you're learning. And then on top of that, just, this goes for any job search, really. I think, using your connections and building your network is going to be so important. I mentioned that I went to a networking event with Gemini before I landed a job there. And I would recommend, if there's a company that you're interested in, look up to see if they're going to be at any events in your city and check them out and go and try to meet someone there and make the connection. And that will go a really long way. But I do want to add that experience will translate. Nobody in this space is an expert. The space is new. So we're all learning together. So there's no need to feel like you have to be an expert. Your skills and experience will absolutely translate.
Yeah. And, I really want to highlight, I think there's, you and I like talk about this a lot. How sometimes imposter syndrome really comes in, and specifically like for women, where there's like a job posting and maybe you don't feel as qualified, or you don't check every box that they have. But it's also proven, I have to go look at the statistic, but like, if it's the male part, they will apply. And it's happened even to me where I'm like, oh, I don't have that, maybe I shouldn't even apply. And like, what's your thought process with that, with your own experience, and like, what's the advice you would give another woman?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I also struggle with imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm constantly fighting it, which is just like, that's a whole separate thing. In terms of the job descriptions, I would say if you are interested in the role, you're interested in the company, and you're excited about it, you don't need to check all the boxes. And, remembering that is really important. Oftentimes, companies will post a job description, but, you don't know which points on the job description are flexible. They usually have an idea of, oh, these are like two things, two skills that we really need. But if someone doesn't have the other stuff, we can teach them. So it really can't hurt to apply and then have the conversation with the recruiter or the hiring manager to chat about which skills and experience is a high priority for them, and see if it's a match for you.
Yeah.
I love it when I've seen some companies will put that little statistic on their job descriptions, which I kind of love. I think it's just a reminder to women and, anyone who's
Yeah.
hesitant to apply that you don't have to check off all the boxes.
Yeah. And okay, so first, well, I guess coming from this, like, I think that we also need to remember we're in a really peculiar space where a lot of the roles are kind of being reinvented. And even we see that with the creator economy. Now, many people are YouTubers making millions of dollars, and that's what they do, and they're content creators. And I think with the technology that we're in with blockchain and crypto, a lot of the roles are yet to be defined completely. And I think that's really important to remember that, like, if you have experience, whether that's project management or, setting up systems or whatever it is, it translates and you can definitely fit in. There's like enough space for everyone.
Absolutely. And there's so much opportunity to learn. I think like culture fit
Yeah.
is often the most important thing, and everything else can be taught.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to look at companies or wants to apply, where should you direct them?
Great question. I've recently discovered a site called Higher Vibes, which I love. It's basically a Web3 job board. But you can also just find jobs on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I would recommend probably starting with a few companies that you're excited about. So maybe do some research and see which ones, resonate with you. And then just go directly to their career pages.
Yeah. So I guess another thing that um I want to talk about is like no, receiving a no, and how to like battle that, because even from the same company, maybe you really love a company and you really want to work with them, but it's not the time, or you need more experience, or whatever it is. Like, how do you combat that? Because I think a lot of us, it happens to me where I really loved the company and I applied once, they said no, and I thought that that was it. Like, I was no longer eligible to reapply even months down the line.
Yeah, that's a great question. A couple things. I think like oftentimes we need a reminder that it is so important to continue to build the relationships and connections. So even if it's a no today, that definitely doesn't mean no forever. I would encourage you to, write a thoughtful response to that company, let them know that you'd like to stay in touch. And then if you were to see a different role posted, let's say 6 months later, and you're interested, definitely reach back out to your connection from that company. Just because it was a no before does not mean it's always a no. And on the recruiter side, we will often, let's say we really like somebody, but they're not the best fit for a role we have open, but we just like really liked their vibe. They seemed, really smart, whatever it might be. We'll keep their name on file so that we can, reach out to them in the future if something else opens up. So I definitely would not consider that door closed in any way. And then I think separately, sort of on the emotional side, it's important to remember that usually everything works out. And if it's a no, it might be for a reason, and it might be because there's something better coming down the road for you. And I do think, job searching can be really tough. I felt this when I was laid off in 2020. You kind of have to, part of the process is like managing your emotions around it and making sure that you're taking care of yourself to stay confident and just sort of trust the process and trust that something good is coming.
Yeah. And I love like those insights. I think also like I guess questions. So if you're a recruiter and I mean, more or less, a lot of the companies in the space, crypto space, are startups or there's not a huge team. What would you say if somebody is in the interview process and they are, I mean, Twitter's a really big one, but maybe or Twitter on LinkedIn, kind of sharing thoughts about maybe what a blog that the company has posted or shared about or gives thoughts. Like, do you think that those are brownie points too? Or
Absolutely. Yeah. We were talking about this the other day, actually. I think it's really important to show interest and passion and to stay engaged in the process. It's not a bother if candidates are following up with us or checking in or sharing ideas or want to hop on the phone and ask a few questions. It shows that they really do care. And I think that goes a long way. So staying engaged is awesome. It can be as simple as, hey, just checking in, just want to let you know I'm here and I'm still interested. Or like you said, you could go the extra mile to either write a blog post and share it and say, hey, just wanted to share this work sample that I wrote. Or it could be, like you said, commenting on something that the company posted, and engaging with them on social media or emailing your thoughts. Any of that can definitely just add to your application. It just shows that you care, and
yeah.
that's important.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think this has been super insightful. I kind of want to go back. Well, no, go back. I want to explore a little bit more about the dynamic between like being in a relationship with with someone your partner is in the crypto space, and like did that really push you? You touched upon it a little bit, but did that really propel you into getting into space because he was like fired up about it? And then maybe we can from there highlight like the differences, like how can we invite more women into the space too?
Yeah. Okay. Good questions. Yeah. So my now fiance, Andre, obviously you know him, got me into this space. And I think I feel really lucky to have him because as I started to get into the space, one, he already had the resources in my apartment. So I was able to pick them up really easily. So I feel lucky for that. But then I also had him just kind of like supporting me through my journey. If I had questions about how something worked or I wanted to get a wallet, he was there to help and support me. And I feel really lucky to have that. And even today, we probably talk about crypto too much. Like I think we need to find other topics to talk about, but we talk about crypto all the time, and it's really nice that we can share in each other's passion. I'm kind of glad that we don't work at the same organization right now, but our work overlaps so much, and it's really exciting when we get to like go to a conference together or something like that. And I think it makes me feel more connected to him. And I would say he would say the same about me. So that piece is really nice.
Okay. And like, what do you think for the men in the space? Like, what responsibility do they have to also like inform and share and educate like their loved ones, whether it is like women or just anybody? But yeah, like what's your take on that?
That's a good question. I feel like it's everyone's responsibility in the space to care about bringing other people into the space. Women, women specifically, but anyone really. And I say that because if we want the space to be inclusive and to succeed, then one, we need to invite people from all backgrounds. And I think it's on all of us to help support those people. Um, I would encourage men in this space to seek out women at crypto events or women in their life and be a friend, be someone who, they can talk to about money and crypto, and maybe be that person that someone can go to and say, hey, I'd like to get a wallet and I don't know how. Can you help me? Things like that. I think we need to all support each other in that. And I think that, on the one hand, it's really important for women to see women doing it, and it's important for women to support each other. But I would say, like, there's so many men in this space, we can't only rely on that. We need to be helping each other. So I would encourage men to step in and mentor people and help them get into the space.
Yeah. I shared it with you and also on social, the stats on YouTube for the Unraveling Crypto. And I think it was 70% men male, and 30% female. And I was a little shocked because my community tends to be a little bit more like females. And I think that just highlights a lot of still what, like, the culture. There's still a lot of men, um and it's mainly dominated by them. And although I also got into the space because of my boyfriend too, like, really I dove into it, and so grateful and thankful. And I think they're like incredible allies. Is I would love to see more women. And the thing is, like, I think because we're in that mindset, we see so many women in the space and on Twitter, and we interact, and like a lot of them, I look up to them. I love interacting with them. But I think it's just like an interesting statistic to see still that there's a lot of, yeah. What do you think are the points of friction for why women are curious but still don't join, or don't want to learn, or don't actively seek, like perhaps with
Yeah,
you?
I love everything that you just said. I totally agree with you. And I think it's great that men are listening. I don't want them to stop listening. I just want
Yeah.
us to like also increase the women. Um, Points of friction. I think, when I talk to my friends who are not in this space,
Hmm.
they see the space as risky,
Yeah.
and they see it as just sort of like a boys club. I
Mm.
think how they get exposed to the space is, let's say they go out to the bar with a group of friends and they'll see a group of guys over there and they overhear them, talking about their crypto investments over beer. Like, that is, I think, the vibe that they're getting. And I think, it's, I feel like we need to more broadly share the image that it's so much more than that. It's not just a bunch of guys buying crypto. It is so much more, and it's so beautiful and it's so feminine. And I want to share that image, but I don't think that image is broadly available to people that aren't seeking it out.
Yeah. I think as I started exploring a little bit more on the marketing side, I feel like we're still lacking big time on the brand awareness marketing side, with Web3, Bitcoin, and crypto in general, because there's like a big emphasis on technology, on how cool it is, and how innovative, and how like decentralization is just, it's permissionless, and all of these words that at the end of the day, I think I don't know how much decentralization people truly want, right? Because centralization is actually very convenient and it gives a lot of opportunity for you to have accessibility. And so there's just like, I think we may be marketing a little wrong. And because we're so focused on the technology, on the product, I think that affects how people can connect and relate to it. No, don't you
Yes.
think?
No, honestly, you nailed it. And I think I hope that you can change this for us. I think your podcast is obviously an amazing start. But if you think about what we see in like mainstream media, it's like you said, it's all about decentralization, permissionless, or it's about friction between crypto and the government,
Yeah.
which only makes the space seem scary and risky.
Yeah.
And I'd be so curious to see the marketing improve, like you said, and share some of the other stories.
Yeah. I mean, one really great example that I think a big company is doing that is Starbucks, because even on the language that they're using is different. And I think Mags also, I'll like share her Twitter. She shares a lot on that, how they're not really using NFTs. They're not really talking about wallets. And I think that they're making it a little more relatable. They're using stamps or collectibles, and that's just a lot easier to understand and process when you're reading like what this is. And they're not like, it's not a wallet that you have to open necessarily, but it's like within their app, which it is centralized. So I think we're in a really peculiar space with that. But okay, so we got with talking about crypto and Web3, but I want to get to know you. Well, I want people to get to know you because we talk every day.
You know me.
Yeah. But I guess I've asked you this before, and I just wanna I'm curious to know, like, what are you most proud of?
Wow.
I know I
That's a good question.
didn't like sorry.
What am I most proud of? I think I've answered this I think I've answered this before and I give the same answer often. But I am very proud of my relationship with my fiance, Andre. It's just, I'm somebody that like lives by my heart. And I think, the love that I have with him is so special. And not only that, like it takes work to build a happy, healthy relationship. And so it's taken us, years of figuring things out together and, going through tough times to get to a place where we are in a healthy, loving relationship. And that's just, to me, that's so special. So that is something I'm proud of.
Yeah, I love this answer so much, and I think when you shared it with me, it stuck like a lot because again, I think we are on the opposite spectrum sometimes when it comes to femininity and the empowerment of women, where it's true there's a lot of tradition, and I think we're like it's an interesting, we're like millennials, or like even everybody's just trying to figure out their role in the world, what, as a partner, as a girlfriend, as a wife. And it's so easy to go on the opposite end saying like, not appreciating or not seeing how important or how much work a relationship takes, and how much fulfillment that gives you, or being loved. And as a woman, and I think as a man, a human in general, that's so powerful. And when I heard you say this, I was just like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. And it really explains, it describes you. And
I know
yeah.
it does. And what's kind of sad is that I think if you were a guy and you asked me that question, I would never give you that answer
Mm,
because I would probably say something that I achieved at work.
yeah.
But I don't want to shy away from the fact that like having a loving relationship is important to me and a big part of my life. And it doesn't mean that I can't also be successful at work. It's just, something else that I'm proud of.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I want to pick your brain with that, because we've also talked about this, of like the role of being like a woman, and you're engaged, and how do you, like, what are your beliefs or your thoughts regarding like, what are you taking from tradition and what are you not? How do you find balance in like just being a woman and still working full time, and what are your thoughts in general?
Yeah, I don't know. I have so many thoughts honestly on this, and I'm sure they'll change. They'll change if one day I become a mom and have to, you know, juggle even more. So right now it's just me and Andre. So, you know, that's the perspective I'm speaking from. But I think about this a lot. I feel like I'm often trying to sort of fight the tradition. Um, because I don't want to, I have this part of me that doesn't want to succumb to like societal like gender norms. I actively fight that. But at the same time, I feel very feminine in who I am. And I think not embracing that makes me feel like I'm not being myself. So I've been sort of, this is something that I'm working on, and I'm sure I'll continue to work on it. But it's, I'm trying to figure out sort of like who I am, and I don't want to fight the feminine side of me just because it makes me feel like, maybe I'm doing some things that you would call like gender norms. But I mean, for the most part, we're not very traditional. Um, I don't know, but I feel like this will evolve as
Yeah,
we
it's an
like
exploration for sure.
continue. Yes, yes, totally,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um,
Um, yeah. Anyway,
no, well, I wanted to ask because I think you and I spoke about, or we in one of these sessions we tried to launch. You also said that you kind of suppressed the feminine side at work, and that felt a little disconnected. And because we are meant to be, not meant to, but like we, saying that we're emotional or we're sensitive or it's that time of the month or all of these things, there's so much like stigma with that. And you think you've been able to find a balance to still be you, feminine, and just feel comfortable?
that's a great question. I feel like more recently, in the past 6 months to 12 months, I have finally been feeling comfortable with just fully being myself at work, which includes being feminine. For so long, I was fighting it because I thought that to be successful at work, I needed to be more masculine. So I would change the way I would speak. I would change the way I would dress, or the things I would talk about. And I've just realized that I don't need to do that. I just want to be fully myself. And I believe that the people I work with will embrace that. Um, and I think part of it is, we're all actively fighting these biases that we have, right? And so I think we probably all have a bias that someone who's more masculine exudes more power, and maybe we trust them more, right? That's something that we all need to, that's just a bias that we all need to work on. So I'm very aware that I might have that bias, that people I work with may have that bias, but I kind of refuse to not just be myself. And if that's feminine, then that's great.
I love that. Oh my God, this is so beautiful. I can't. Okay, we're wrapping up, and before we get to lightning round, but this last question is, what type of advice that you can give to someone entering into the space, and how they can find balance with the technology and how fast everything moves, and just mental health and just overall wellness?
That's a great question. Something that comes to mind, which I apply this to all aspects of my life, is just taking baby steps. Like it's going to be overwhelming. Like you kind of alluded to, there's so much information, there's so much to do. And something that always works for me is just remembering, if I just do one small thing every day, it will add up to a lot over time. And so maybe that looks like just reading one blog post a week about the space. Or maybe it's buying $5 of Bitcoin on an exchange where it's pretty easy to get set up. Something like that. Just take these little small steps, and eventually you'll turn around and be amazed at how much you've done, or how much you know. I feel like I'm still doing this. I mean, you and I are always constantly learning about the space and seeking out ways to learn, and just kind of baby steps. And hopefully we'll turn around and one day feel like experts.
Yeah, you're like,
We'll
oh, I
see.
kind of know what I'm talking about now. Okay, so we're gonna do lightning round, which you've helped design.
I'm so excited for this.
You ready?
Yes,
Okay.
although I forget the questions.
Oh yeah, it's okay. So the whole goal is to answer them with as little words as possible and as fast as possible. Ready?
Okay,
Okay.
I'm ready.
First question. What's your favorite book?
Oh, the first thing that came to mind was Harry Potter,
Millennial.
which is definitely one of my favorite books.
Yeah, it's actually really well written. Okay. One piece of advice to share with the world right now.
Give yourself grace.
Your go-to drink?
An oat latte.
Mine too. One thing you can't stand.
Crumbs, like on the floor.
Yeah. Or on a bed.
Is that
Okay.
like anywhere really? Yeah.
What's your favorite show?
I would have to say Gilmore Girls.
Oh my God, I'm watching that right now. Okay. What's your
Amazing.
what do you value most right now?
Um, I think what do I value most right now? I would say maybe like how I view myself, like
Mm,
self-confidence,
I
something I've
like
been thinking
that.
about lately.
Okay. The one thing that grounds you or supports you during stressful times.
Definitely movement, yoga, Pilates.
Okay. And what do you love most about yourself?
Um, I love that I make decisions with my heart based on how I feel.
Okay. Well, we have come to a completion for this session. It's been so wonderful. There's so much more that we can say and talk, and you'll be on plenty more times. But thank you for taking the time and for just being you and just sharing everything that you do because you bring so much value. And I'm really grateful for you.
Well, thank you for having me. This conversation was amazing. As always, I love seeing you and your questions are awesome.
Okay.
I love this podcast. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. Well, before we complete, where can people hang out with you? Can they connect? Oh my God, I
Oh,
cannot talk.
um, let's see. I have a Twitter. It's Mel Mason BTC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also on LinkedIn, just my name, Melanie Mason. Where else? You can find me on Instagram. Yeah. And, my DMs are open. Please message me. I'm always want to talk to people in the space. So let me know if you want to chat.
Okay, I will link all of your profiles so people can connect with you. Please do. She's incredible. Anyway, I hope you have a beautiful day and we'll see each other soon.
Thank you.